Morning, everybody. Very excited to be here with you today. I'm truly excited because now I have the chance to talk to about 750 communicators who inspire every day hundreds, thousands, or even millions of people with your stories. I think that's truly fascinating what you guys are doing. But today, it's not about me. It's not about you. And it's not about them. It's about us. And how we tell stories. And I want to share with you some insights. What we learned over the last 17 years of our still young career at Google, and how we can basically create an environment where innovation can happen by design and not by exception. And to do that, I want to actually start off continuing disrupting probably yourself with a little exercise, which is simple but has a deep meaning. For that, I want that everybody just stands up again. And as you demonstrated in the past that you are amazing storytellers, I want to reset your mind to tell a story in a different way. And I promise you, it's going to have a deeper meaning. I want you to turn to somebody next to you. It might be the colleague you brought today, or it might be somebody new. But try to turn to somebody, take that risk, and face that person. Fantastic. Now, that was only the beginning. Thank you. Fantastic. So that was only the beginning. Please keep standing. You just demonstrated that you're really great communicators and storytellers. And sorry for interrupting. But I want you to tell a story with that person and create a shared memory. So I want you, in a couple of seconds, that you start by finding just a common city or a common place. And just name that place. For example, Italy, or it might be Berlin, or like any city or place you agree on. It doesn't have to be a place you actually went to in the past. It could be a new one. And then I want you to start a story by saying, remember the time we went to Italy. And then the other person says, yes, and remember when we were sitting on this plaza. The other person goes, yes, and remember the people who passed by and took photos of us. The other person goes, yes, and remember, and you continue the story. So the only two things you have to do is find a place and then start every sentence by saying, yes, and remember, and go. All right, fantastic. Great, so take a seat. Take a seat again. Take a seat. Yes, fantastic. So now I hope that you not just have a shared memory, which is probably something exciting you want to explore in the future, but also you will reset your mind. That probably for the next, hopefully 30 minutes or 45 minutes, you're trying to be in a yes and mindset, which is very important, and I'm going to come back to that point. Again, in 17 years at Google, we've made some progress, but we also made some mistakes. And I want to share with you today what we learned over those 17 years and how we can actually build a culture where innovation can happen. Because we actually believe that innovation cannot be forced or ordained, but you can create an environment where innovation can happen. And some of those learnings I want to share with you today. And while doing that, I want to also experiment on how we can actually explore those principles and make them really meaningful for ourselves as well. And to start off, I want you to do another thing, which is look in your map you have in front of you, and I want you to take out this empty colored piece of paper and a pen. Again, I encourage you to follow me and give yourself permission to do that. Again, it's going to have some deeper meaning for you. So with that colored paper and a pen, I now want you to take a look at the person left or right to you. And I'm going to give you 30 seconds to draw a picture of that person. And go. About 15 seconds left. Five, four, three, two, one. And pens down. Fantastic. Now I want you to take this piece of paper and hand it over to the person you just drew. And this is the reaction you get from about 99% of adults when you do this exercise with them. When you compare that to children or kids, they react in the total opposite way. What I just explored here and saw was some people were looking away when they handed over the piece. Some were started laughing instantly. Some people felt probably a little bit embarrassed and said, I'm very sorry for that, so excuse me. And that's okay if you feel that way. Because in most organizations, we see that sharing wild ideas, sharing unfinished work, sharing something which you're probably not really an expert in, is something we just don't do because we feel embarrassed. We feel that other people might laugh about us. So we keep the drawings and the wild ideas locked away, and we don't share that with other people. But how can we create an environment where sharing wild ideas is actually encouraged? When my son comes home from kindergarten, and he's about 5 years old, he has some similar drawings like you do, I have to say, which is okay as well. What do you think he does? He comes up to me, looks me straight in the eyes and says, "Here you go, Daddy." Hands me over his artwork and drawings and wild ideas and things he dreamed up with his friends in kindergarten. He does not feel embarrassed. He does not say, "I'm sorry." He's not laughing because he's very serious and he's very proud of what he has achieved. And he gives himself permission every day to do those things and try out these things. So think for a second on how you can actually create an environment in your organization where you can give yourself permission to share unfinished work, to share wild ideas, or simple drawings like this. And I brought a question today, which I think is also a question which when we look at children, or let's say when you have a beginner's mind, they're really good at dreaming up the impossible things, dreaming up really wild ideas. Cars which can fly, maybe cars which can drive themselves, and other really radical new ideas by asking just a simple question, what if? So if we have that beginner's mind, we actually just are ignoring things which, might get into the way, which might seem impossible. And what I want you to do now is, because you now have your profile picture in front of you, I want you to turn over the page, and I want you to write down, what if, and continue that sentence or that question with something which is very specific for you, for your team, for your organization. And try to imagine something which seemed quite impossible at the moment. So give yourself about 30 seconds to continue this question about what if. Fantastic. Thank you very much again. Our company started about 17 years ago with our two founders dreaming exactly up that question, what if? What if we could organize the world's information, make it universally accessible and useful? What if we can actually improve people's lives through technology? And that is still the question which we're trying to answer every day. And we believe that with that mission statement, we actually have something which creates meaning for our employees, which motivates them to come every day to work and start contributing towards that mission, to really organize the world's information, make it universally accessible and useful. And having a mission statement, like we just heard, is something really powerful. But having a mission statement for only 10 years, I think, is something we have to reconsider. Because what are you going to do after 10 years? You just let your people go and say, like, we're done. Nothing more to do here. We're going to start over again. With our mission statement, we're never going to be finished. Because there's always be more information in this world we can organize. And there's always going to be a better way on how to do it. Also, if you look at mission statements in general, our mission statement doesn't have anything with market share, revenue goals, competitors, or us being the best ones in something. We don't include that, because that doesn't create meaning for people. So think about the mission statement your organization has, and how exciting this is for you to invest your time to really make progress in your mission. Having a mission statement really matters. But another principle I want to share with you is having a default to open. That means sharing information in your organization with your peers and with your team, but also from leaders to the employees and from the employees to the leaders. And it's incredibly important that everybody in the organization has access to the same information all the time. So when you start at Google as an engineer, might be an intern or the SVP, you have access to the source code on your first day. The letter to board of directors is shared with every employee, and that's 55,000 people, at the same day when it's shared with the board of directors. One of my favorite events happens every week, which is called TGIF. Thank Google it's Friday. It's an event where people gather very socially at the end of the week, drink together, have something to eat. But most importantly, the two founders are presenting an update on the company every week, and there's no excuse for not being there, the two founders. And they answer questions for about 1.5 hours. And that's very powerful, because that shows not just the commitment of the leaders, but it gives the leaders access to information which they usually would not have, because then they can understand what's going on in the company. And trust me, the most difficult questions are asked in that meeting every week. So having a default to open is something very healthy and useful to have in an organization, because that also enables trust. Now I want you to share your what if or mission statement and make that accessible and available for other people. So I want you to fold that piece of paper as a paper plane. If you don't know how to do that, maybe just look at your neighbor and they can help you. But I'm sure everybody folded a piece of paper as a paper plane at some stage in their life. So fold that piece of paper. And you probably can guess what's going to happen next. We're going to launch those planes and give that what-if question, hopefully to somebody else, so that they can actually work something on it. So everybody just gets up really quickly. Get your paper planes ready to launch, and I'm going to count back from 3. Yes. All right, everybody on their feet. Great. Get ready to launch. And 3, 2, 1, and launch. Fantastic. Excellent. So pick one up. Pick another one up. Yes, if you found some, like just pick it up and read what the what if statement is about. Maybe you can also recognize the person from the profile picture. And now I want you to get back to the yes and mindset we practiced in the beginning by building a shared memory. A yes and mindset is very helpful if you want to come up with radical new ideas. Most of us, specifically for me as a German, we're really good at coming up with 5, 6, 7, 8 arguments about why an idea would not work. We're the yes but people. Saying like, yes, that sounds good, but I have like 6, 7 reasons already in my head why this would not work. So for me, I made an intentional effort to train myself to get into a yes and mindset, to respond in a way which doesn't destroy the idea in its core, but accepts the idea and builds on it by saying yes and. And it's very important that we actually do that, because then we can actually generate something which is far beyond what we can actually imagine in the first place. If we build on each other's ideas by saying yes and, like in the story you developed, you end up in a place, a location, with people, in a scenario which you haven't imagined before. If you would start your story with yes but or no but, the story probably instantly would stop. And that's the same for ideas. So I want you to take the next 15 minutes and just try to add something to the what if question you received in a yes and mindset. So accepting this and trying to add something to it. Make it bigger, grow it in some way. And maybe you have a chance today or tomorrow to find the person and actually provide that feedback to that person. Say like, I think it's great, and I would actually add something to that. When we have a yes and mindset, we can actually try to come up with radical solutions, which are 10 times better than the solutions we see at the moment. And that's very important, to always look for solutions which are not just 10% an improvement. Make a car slightly bit faster. Make a car drive on maybe a little less gas. But try to imagine what transportation means in a 10x way, meaning like really starting over to rethink how that solution might actually look like. With our self-driving cars, for example, we exactly took that approach to really rethink what transportation would actually mean in the future. Another project is Project Loon. We launched about 2 years ago, which connects, hopefully in the future, about 4 billion people who don't have access to internet at the moment. With those radical ideas, you really try to look for 10x solutions and not just 10% incremental improvements. Because history also shows us that if you only improve or innovate for 10%, you're going to disappear. And technology is only increasing the speed. But when you look for those radical ideas, you have to have somebody who guides you. a North Star you can look at, who really provides you the right guidance. For us, in our case, it's the user. So our decisions are always based, and I mean always based, in the best interest of the user. Not the competition, not anybody else, not the sales team, not the engineering team, but the team, and that's all Googlers, who really understand what's in the best interest of the user. Because we believe if you focus on the user, all else will follow. Another principle I want to share with you, which is quite different to lots of other organizations, is the launch and iterate philosophy. So we give products and solutions into the hands of the user really early on. Google Glass was one of those examples, but all other products as well, where we really give solutions into the people's hands to understand what works and what doesn't work, to start iterating and improving. Because trust me, you cannot make the right decisions by sitting in a meeting room and deciding what a driverless car would actually do in the real world. You have to put that technology on the streets to really understand the different scenarios and how you can actually improve a product over time. But when you do that, you also make a lot of mistakes. And you probably can Google or Bing it or any other search engine about the track record we have about failed products. And the teams who worked on that are actually the teams who are most in demand in the organization. But failing hurts. Failing is something, I've never met somebody who came to me and said, you know, I really want to screw up in this project. I really want to do everything wrong here. You know, because I hear failure is something where we innovate, right? Never heard that person. But I hear a lot of people who say, I want to take a risk, and I'm okay if something goes wrong. Because I don't want to fail, but I want to learn. And that's very important, that people in your organization are actually motivated to take those risks, and that they experience a place where they can fail well. Meaning that they're going to be the most important people in your organization with the most learnings, with the most experience, when they actually tried out something new. And that's very important. Because again, if products are failing, if projects are failing, that hurts. So you have to create an environment where people are recognized and incentivized for taking risks. And you can do that in a way that you give people freedom. Freedom in a way that they can explore new ideas in a specific capacity. For us, it's 20% time. So it's 1 day a week where people can freely choose to work on things which don't have anything to do with our company, and they can do so, and they have the resources to do so. And it's very important because it creates a language where you can really understand what are people actually passionate about. Because a software engineer is actually not doing something radically different on the weekends. They're probably going to do something with software because they're really passionate about that. So having people explore their 20% time and their passion projects in your organization is something where we can actually show some really successful stories. Gmail is one of those, which now has about 750 million users, was created by one engineer in a 20% capacity. Google Now and Google News and all these other products are another example of how actually people are trying to look at problems and trying to really come up with innovative ideas when they have the freedom to do so. So think about what you could do with 20% time, 1 day a week, and how that would actually change how your organization would work. The last thing I want to share is something what I explored as a 20% capacity. over the last 2 years. So I was getting more and more interested in spaces, in physical environments, and how they influence us and how we think and feel. Because I truly believe that if you walk into a church, or if you walk into a gym, you have a different experience. And that's because of the space. So the space influences how we think and feel. And if you want to encourage specific behaviors, for example, innovative thinking, creativity, experimentation, trying out new things, you can actually create an environment which supports that. If you want to encourage openness and transparency in your organization, that information is shared. If you want to build trust, if you want to have people collaborate, you can build the spaces around that to really encourage those behaviors. So again, try to look at your organization and the values you stand for and how they are actually represented in the physical environment. Because the space is actually the body language of your organization. So with those principles we explored, you really have something which helps you to not just become better communicators, but to create an environment where you are actually in charge, where innovation can happen, so that you can really tell inspiring stories in the future. Thank you very much.